Alrighty, friends. So today we're talking about how to build a bulletproof trading plan. As usual, I broke today's lesson into two parts. Part one being essential components of a risk management plan, and part two is creating a personalized risk management checklist. So I broke it. It really what it comes down to is three main parts for me. It's pre-session, then pre-trade, and then post-trade. We'll talk a little bit about during the trade, but ideally what we're looking to do is do all our preparation and planning before, just like a big game. If we're relating this to any athletics, before a big game like a football game or a boxing bout, you have your plan, you have done your training. All you have to do is execute. Of course, when you get punched in the mouth, your plan may change in real time very quickly. But for the most part, when it comes to very data-driven decision making, like trading, most of that stuff in between is kind of washed away when you really spend a lot of time pre-session and post-session. So that looks like going after, that big bout or that big game, going back and reviewing the tapes and looking at your performance. So that stuff is really, really important. And I hope that today's lesson really instills that in you guys, knowing that, if I put in the work pre-session, pre-trade, I execute, and then I review, I'm going to be so much better every single day. I'm able to look back and track progress in real time. We're also going to talk about how to track progress. So let's jump into it. It's going to be concise, so bear with me and ask questions if you need to. So part one, essential components of a risk management plan. So this part, we're going to talk about pre-session planning. So before you sit down and you're looking for trades, what do you do? So these are things that you should create a routine of before every trading day. So if you are one of the few that does this full time, you probably already have something like this in place. But for most of us here, we have full-time jobs or part-time jobs, and this is either I trade during Asian session or market open or whatever it looks like. So you should develop a routine of a pre-session plan, a checklist of sorts. So that may look like, and again, this is generalized, you have to make it your own, but it should look something similar to this. You stay up to date on any news that could affect market conditions, that is, especially the price action for what we're doing. Most of what we're teaching here, the vast majority of that would be technical analysis. We're not so much fundamental traders. We're not trading off of speculation of, let's say, a earnings report from Meta. That's typically not what we're looking to do here. We're looking off of how the price action is moving and really going on the technical side of things. Yet we have to be aware of the fundamental side of things. So FOMC is coming out and we're not trading during that time. It's really important to be aware of that stuff. And of course, that's a big one where you should truly be, in my opinion, if you're a technical analysis trader, you should be out of the market during something like FOMC. But there's so many other variables at play that you really should be aware of all that. And that's why in a community, if you find yourself in a community like you are now, or regardless of what community you're in, if it's based on technical analysis or fundamental, there should be a newsroom where you're getting up-to-date news. And that's what JB is here for, providing you guys through the market news channel. You guys should, if you have everything else muted, that should be unmuted unless you are tracking all the news on your own. But pay attention to that stuff. I encourage you guys to define your daily bias. Of course, your daily bias may change based on market conditions. That happens. But I really do encourage the simplistic aspect of technical analysis where the trend, really making it simple. The trend is your friend. You have to trade a line, I would argue, for the majority of your trades should be aligning with these big position, these market movers. We should be surfing the wave with them. We should not be trying to catch the top or the bottom. We jump in when they're in and we ride with them. So Of course, that could change, but for the most part, defining your daily bias should be part of your pre-session planning. And then two others is reviewing your max position size. Again, a lot of us have different account sizes. A lot of us are trading maybe 1, 2, 3 accounts per day. It depends what it is, but I really encourage you guys to say, okay, today I'm trading my 50K account and my max position size is going to be 4 micros. So whatever that looks like for you, review your max position size. And then lastly, for this pre-session planning, reviewing your max loss tolerance is also really good. So I highly encourage you guys to keep just your risk parameters and your trading checklist on a piece of paper or a post-it note on your monitor or in front of you. Keep it somewhere where it's, in your view to continually review and say, you know what, I typically find myself scaling up a little bit heavier when, let's say, everybody's long in the chat. And even though it goes against your risk parameters and potentially you're already at your max loss tolerance for the day, but you continue to push past that. And maybe you're trying to talk yourself into something, but what really does help is having your risk parameters in your sight line to look at it and be like, you know what, I need to follow that. That I came up with that, took a lot of work, and I'm not going to go anywhere more than that. And also, just to shoot it out for you guys, if you guys are looking for, let me pull it up, useful info. If you guys are looking for risk parameters for the most common prop firm accounts, you can find those under the useful info tab. The first 2 PDFs that are there are a general guideline for what your risk parameters should look like for the most common accounts. Those were based off of Apex. Of course, you'll have to make adjustments based on prop firm rules and whatever else your drawdowns, but it's pretty straightforward, and it shouldn't look much different than that. And then lastly, for your pre-session planning, I highly recommend checking on your emotions. If you have a ton of stressors on your life and you're, maybe potentially angry at life or at a specific situation, or, you're really sad or just overall stressed and you can't seem to, take a deep breath, I would highly recommend you would not trade that day. But you, of course, are the only one who truly knows what your emotional state is at. And if you don't bring that to a conscious level and you just sit down and you go through the routine of opening up TradingView and your broker and your, Discord to follow the trades, and you just, you find yourself over and over again throughout the months, depending on the time of the month and what's going on in your life. Sometimes you're doing really good. Sometimes you're blowing accounts and revenge trading. A lot of that is because you subconsciously or consciously choose not to see how you're doing emotionally, and you sit down and you try to take trades when you really should not be taking any trades. And it's okay to sit there and be like, man, I really just don't feel well, and I can't put my finger on it, but it's probably a good idea for me to sit out today. And that's okay. And I would say that is actually extremely beneficial for long-term success in something like this. For me, on a very personal note, there's a reason I don't live trade anymore in front of you guys. It's because that is a huge stressor on my life, and I didn't realize it for a long time. But the highs that come with, getting hundreds of people to follow your trade and have a really good session, and a lot of people are making money and sending you DMs, and just all this, the highs that come with that, and then the lows that come with losing that trade in front of a lot of people. And a lot of people are copy trading. They're not here to directly learn. And regardless, that was a huge stressor on my life, and it took me a long time to realize that. Even though I had great emotional maturity, I would say, of course that's biased, but you just have to be self-aware. And I really do encourage you guys before every session just to take a few deep breaths, reflect for a second, and be like, how am I feeling today? And if you're in a good spot, awesome. Let's take some trades if the opportunities present themselves. But if not, sit out. Go for a walk. Focus on your heart. Do something for you. Life is too short to be continually stressed. This chronic stress is an absolute killer. And we have to be aware of that stuff. So I don't want to beat the dead horse, but this stuff really, really is important. And again, just like any athletic event or a big meeting preparation for your vocation, whatever it is, the preparation and the work that you put in beforehand is really what makes a difference in traders. It's not, sitting down in front of the computer and, an opportunity presents itself. Of course, we need to wait for those opportunities, but really what makes the difference between successful and non-successful traders is what work you're putting in pre and post trading. It's really not what comes down to the actual trade. In my opinion, of course, there are variables and that's a generalization, but for the most part, that is true. So let's talk about risk parameters and position sizing. So, and again, for anybody joining up, any questions, comments, concerns, anything right now, let me know. If not, we'll continue. So risk parameters and position sizing. So for most big account, it's a general rule that most, banks, institutional trading firms, most hedge funds, you're not going to see them exceeding maximum 3% per trade. You get Michael Burry, some people who really go all in, like during the 2000. I think he took those trades during 2006. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then we saw the full crash 2008, 2009. Regardless of that, that's a very niche situation. But for the most part, most trades, you're not going to see them exceed sometimes 1%, 2% of the account per trade. So that should be very similar to what we're doing. Of course, the smaller your account size is, you can only get so little with you can only trade, you can't half your micro position. So of course, your position size may look like 2, 3, 4, 5% of your account, but we really, really should not be exceeding that. And it's easy if you don't have those risk parameters on that Post-it note or that piece of paper, or maybe in a separate tab on Google Docs in front of you. It's easy to forget just one extra micro or two extra micros, how much that can affect a small account size. So you guys have to be writing this stuff down. You have to define your risk parameters before you get into that trade. Excuse me. So for example, a trader, or, if you have a $10,000 account risking 3%, you would never lose more than $300 per trade. And that's what we're trying to define here. You cannot properly or effectively manage your portfolio if you can't even measure how much you're throwing into the market. And again, those micros add up very quickly. So again, we know this, it's elementary, but a lot of us still can forget that, don't have it. Maybe we just need the reminder. And that's what I'm here to do. So, and lastly on that, of course, having your risk to reward ratio predefined as well. On TradingView, they make it so easy with that measurement tool, that long or short position tool, to find if you're at a 1 to 2 risk to reward, a 1 to 2.5 risk to reward, a 1 to 3 risk to reward. But that is very, very important. I would also, we'll keep it simple for now, but that has to be defined before you enter the trade. And we're going to talk about, this is again, pre-session stuff, but we're going to also talk about pre-trade checklist, but that has to be defined, because if you have no idea right now, so let's say you don't journal, let's say you don't utilize a software like TradeZella, tell me right now, anyone in the chat, can you tell me exactly what your win to loss or your win-loss ratio is? I would argue no. And, if you're trying to be the most effective trader possible, you should know that. Just like if you were to ask a financial advisor, hey, in their, of course, this is a niche example, but let's say you give them all of your money, like literally you trust this person with your life, they're your dad or whatever, and you just have a great relationship. You give them all your money, all your income comes to them, they do it. And you ask them, hey, what's my exact account balance right now? And they're like, I'll have to go check for you. And you're like, okay, where's most of my money at? I'm not really sure. You would lose a lot of faith in that person. And that's the same thing in when it comes to personal trading, like we're doing here, this retail stuff, you have to be your financial advisor. You have to be your portfolio manager. So you have to be, if you want to optimize this stuff, you have to be tracking that stuff. You have to be aware. You have to be saying, okay, I'm making improvement. Or maybe in the last 2 months, you've been actually falling down. You've been losing progress. And so then it's time to take a break away for a week and sit there and be like, okay, I need to start journaling. I need to figure this out. I don't know what's going wrong, but I need to take a break, recalibrate, and then move forward with an action plan that is based off of measurements and results, not off of my feelings. Again, this is a very data-driven game. We can't just throw this up to the wind and expect to see continual progress. This is something that takes time, takes effort, and it takes true management over your portfolio. If you want to optimize this stuff, I'm not saying it's not possible to do that without, doing all this, but again, it's one of those things. Thank you, Hunter, for being honest. Most of us can't, and it's just one of those things. So I encourage you guys to, and if you can afford it, which I would argue most of you guys can, utilizing something like TradeZella. Let's say you are really on a tight budget, or you really do think that's not worth it, the $20 a month or whatever it is. At least start journaling, start a spreadsheet, use ChatGPT, just plug in your trades. You can use ChatGPT on your phone. Just say, hey, my entry was here, exit was here. This was, whatever it is. And they'll just calculate all the data for you, spit out, here's your win-loss ratio for the week for whatever it is. So just encourage you guys to start taking true measurements and, applications like Trade. Again, I'll put it in the chat for you guys who are interested. TradeZella.com. If you want to look into it, I think it's something just over $20 a month. So anyway, moving on, that was pre-session stuff. We went over, things like staying up to date on news, defining your daily bias, reviewing your max position size, and you're reviewing your max loss tolerance, and then absolutely knowing for certain what your maximum risk per trade is, what your allotment is, and then your risk to reward ratio. So moving on to creating a personalized risk management checklist. So this is pre-trade stuff. So that's pre-session. Let's move into pre-trade. And this is pretty short, so we're wrapping it up here, folks. So developing a consistent process is so important for anything. Of course, that's just the way our brains are wired. Is if you make a system that is based off of true data, where it's like, okay, this is beneficial for my trading career, this is beneficial, I should be paying attention to news, my risk parameters, all this stuff. If you build a system around that and then you make it incorporate it and make it part of your routine, that's amazing. But if not, really, how are you gonna find true success every single day, and you're not bringing those emotions into account, and you sit down after a really rough weekend with a spouse or the kids or a life, and you sit down and don't have really anything to be aware of, and kind of just let your emotions take control. You can, if you haven't been there before, you hear all the stories in the chat of, I'm really close to getting cashed out, I'm doing really well, and all of a sudden, I don't know why, this day I just decided to revenge trade and blow my accounts. What happened? I would argue a lot of that comes down to a lack of emotional discipline and a lack of emotional awareness. And those two go hand in hand. So having something in place like a checklist to be like, how am I feeling today? And that could be a sticky note on your monitor that you just look at every day before you jump in. How am I feeling today? Sit back and think about it. And again, it's elementary, but it's powerful. This is foundational stuff for what we do. So developing a consistent, Hunter, John, you are spitting right now, and I have a little squabble this morning right before the market opened, and I've had one of my worst days in months after the best 3 weeks ever. Yeah, it's interesting how, and it's easy for me to say as a outside, this is what I do for a living. I have to focus on this stuff. So that helps me a ton. But when you're in the thick of it and you don't attend classes like this and you just sit down to trade, stuff like that happens all the time. And, it's easy for me to see because I have people DM me every day saying, I've been doing really, really good. And all of a sudden everything went out the window. It's like, hey, what's going on in your life right now? Oftentimes I would say 90% of the time they come back with something happened that day or that week or that weekend. And all of a sudden we can really start to get to the bottom of the issue. So thanks for sharing, Hunter. I mean, this stuff is powerful, and it's, it affects us on every level when, you have something happen and, without proper emotional awareness, and you just sit down and continue to trade, all this stuff, just your subconscious takes over and you start running with it and you don't even realize. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. So developing a consistent process. A checklist ensures every trade follows predefined criteria. Every trade follows predefined criteria. How important is that? So for a pre-trade checklist example may look like something, just a couple questions for yourself. So again, we covered pre-session. This is pre-trade, when you're ready to execute. So have I identified key support and resistance levels, or whatever your criteria, your trade criteria is to get into a trade? Maybe that's your fair value gaps or a certain model you're looking for example, the GUI model, or the unicorn, whatever it is that you trade. Have you identified that criteria? Answer yes or no. Yes. Okay, cool. Let's move forward. Does this trade align with my risk to reward ratio? Is this a 1-to-1? You may have the model, but because of where price is currently, it may be a 1-to-1 or even worse, and we, especially if, to argue again, most of you guys don't know what your true win-loss ratio is. Imagine if you're sitting at a 40%, 30% win-loss ratio and you're trading 1-to-1, you're losing. And so having, even if you do have a 33% win rate, if you're shooting for 3-to-1 trades and you're cutting your losses quickly and you're really holding on to those winners, you're totally fine. You're profitable. So does this trade align with my risk to reward ratio? Answer is yes. You can move forward. Is my stop loss and take profit level predetermined? Pretty straightforward using that, especially TradingView. I think all of us are on that. Looking at, okay, my entry level is going to be within 40 ticks of this position, or 20 ticks. When you're going to get in, and if price is moving too quickly where you can't even guess within 20, 30 ticks of where you're going to be jumping in, that maybe decided to stay out of the market unless you're a scalper, but obviously you would know. So is my stop loss, my take profit levels predetermined? Yes or no? And then finally, and of course this is generalized, you should make it your own. I'll send this out to the chat right now. But finally, before you truly execute, I know you do this in your pre-session, but asking yourself once more, am I emotionally prepared to execute this trade? Am I sitting here itching to get into the trade, or am I, whatever it is, do I have high emotions based off of what's about to happen? Is that healthy? Should I proceed forward? Is this a data-driven decision, or am I letting my emotions kind of cloud my vision? Is there a veil in front of my eyes? Am I saying yes to, have I identified my trade criteria? And did I say yes because I'm forcing my perspective onto the market? Oh, everything looks like it's trending up. This sort of fits the GUI model, but this is kind of off here. But yeah, it's a GUI model, and it may not look like that conversation in your head, but that may be a very real subconscious deal that's happening, and you have to be aware of that stuff. So asking yourself once more, I think, it could be really, really beneficial, and you don't have anything to lose by doing this. Is asking yourself, am I emotionally prepared to execute this trade? That stuff's important, and I think all of you know it, but I don't think a lot of us are executing or practicing it, excuse me. And lastly, just again to reiterate, having this checklist visible during trading is really important. If you put it in your drawer, you're going to forget about it. Writing out some questions for yourself. I just put it in the chat. If if you want to steal directly those or make it your own, just put it a sticky note. You could write small even. Just having that out in front of you is going to be a game changer for some of you. It may not for others, but again, what do you have to lose? And so lastly, let's talk quickly about, your post-trade reflection. So we did, and then I'll touch quickly on during the actual trade. This is not something that is in my notes, but when we talk about, so you did all your pre-session preparation, you did your pre-trade stuff, and now you're in the trade. And you feel yourself wanting to get out early based off of not price action, but how you're feeling. And what I would encourage you guys to do is when you execute, either set a reminder or set alerts on your phone, have your broker set up to your phone, and walk out of the room. If you're someone who constantly finds yourself exiting early on winners and holding too long for losers, or whatever the issue is, sometimes that's just because you're staring at the screen, you're not regulating your emotions, and stress is just building and building and building until something happens. And again, to touch back on external factors, maybe you can handle those stressors on a typical day, but let's say something happens where, again, whatever happens with your spouse, your partner, your kids, your job, life happens, and those external stressors may not be dealt with properly, and all of a sudden I sit down and that same stress that builds typically I'm able to handle, now it pushes me over the limit. And again, most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, this is not a conscious thing that happens. This is just something that our subconscious is in control of, and we just execute. And we just find ourselves revenge trading, increasing our max lot size, letting our max risk tolerance increase. Instead of my max loss being $500, I'm down $1,000 today. Now it's $1,500 because I'm trying to get that back. Whatever that looks like, you guys have to be aware of this stuff. So anyway, that's during your trade. You're actually in the trade. Either walk away, set alerts, or implement practices to regulate emotions. What does that look like? You guys know, a lot of you know what I'm about to say. Breathing is the number one way we know how to reduce stress on a very real level, on a biological level. To pull cortisol and epinephrine or adrenaline out of your bloodstream is something, the fastest way is a physiological sigh. A double inhale, long exhale. Long inhale through the nose, followed by just one more to inflate all the alveoli in your lungs, those little sacs, to really fill up your lungs, and then a slow exhale through the mouth. And I could go into the science behind why that works and why it's so beneficial, but it works, and you can look up the physiological sigh. If you go to hubermanlab.com, I'll type it in the chat for those of you who are curious and want to research this a bit more and don't want to take my word for it. hubermanlab.com. Type in physiological sigh in his search tool. He has so many different talking points on this and direct articles linking to why this is so important. And if you guys didn't know, the surface area of the inside of your typical adult lungs is the size of a tennis court. Those little sacs that inflate and deflate, sometimes they can get stuck together and you're trapping carbon dioxide in there. So not only when you do that double inhale to really inflate everything, you're resetting your oxygen to carbon dioxide levels, but you're also pulling out in real time that adrenaline and cortisol. So you could use it anywhere if you find yourself in any stressful situation to pull, to reset your oxygen and carbon dioxide levels, to reduce stress, adrenaline, and switch you have this, I'm going too much into the weeds here, but you'll switch your nervous system from the sympathetic to parasympathetic, that fight or flight to rest and digest. And it's well proven now and well documented. So if you want to look into it more, hubermanlab.com, but double inhale, long exhale through the mouth. As simple as 1, 2, or 3 of those can immediately change how you're feeling. So that's for during the trade. Emotional regulation. How do I handle this buildup of stress, emotions? Breathe, or walk away, or both. Moving on, sorry for getting in the weeds there. I love that stuff, but post-trade reflection. Again, we're wrapping up here shortly, folks. So post-trade reflection, reviewing past trades helps identify strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement. Again, it's like watching your film after the football game to see what you did wrong, where you did really well. So let's say the defenders on the opposing team really can't counter what this strength of yours. Continue to do that. What weaknesses do you need to work on? Maybe go to the gym a little bit more for this specific muscle group, or train this more, and just overall look for areas of improvement. It's the same thing that we're doing here. If you look back on, and I'll pause here and continue to go. We'll circle back to that, but keeping a journal to log your trade setups, your execution decisions, and your emotional responses are so important. And again, using something like TradeZilla, everything's there. You can journal on the side. You could do everything, and then on a very analytical level, all your data is inputted, and you can track exactly how you did this month overall, this week, this day. It's all right there. Highly recommend something like that if you want to get serious about your trading career. But if not, just keeping a journal to log your trade setups, your execution decisions, and your emotional responses, and reviewing those at the end of each week to assess how well you followed your trading plan, and then you can just adjust as necessary. So what I recommend to anybody between coming up with a risk parameter plan, your overall trading plan, to someone trying to start a diet, to someone trying to go to the gym, what I recommend always is setting at 1 week. Say, I'm going to wake up at this time, I'm going to exercise here, I'm going to do this, this, and this every single day for 1 week. After you complete that, even if the first day you identify something that you want to change, continue for 1 week, unless it's just, absolutely totally wrong. You're like, okay, this is absolutely terrible. I'm hurting myself in the gym, whatever it is. Of course you could change, but set up expectations for yourself, responsibilities for yourself, put them in place. Say for 1 week, I'm going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do. And then at the end of that week, on the Saturday or Sunday, whatever you define as your end of week, review what you did and say, okay, I'm going to continue to progress in this way. I'm going to change this. I'm going to, I was typically aiming for a 1.8 to 1 risk reward. That's not enough. My win-loss ratio is not high enough to be trading at that low of a risk to reward. I need to be shooting for a 2.4 to 1 risk to reward at least, or whatever it is for you. So that's a big encouragement, is just make a plan for at least 1 week and then make adjustments as needed. So that's really all I have to say on the post-trade reflection. It's just, how did I follow my plan? Because if you properly go through and your pre-session prep, you properly go through your pre-trade prep, you execute as you planned, your post-trade reflection should be pretty easy. Like, look back, be like, okay, I didn't follow this, I need to follow this. Go back tomorrow, do it again. Okay, I did this well. Actually, today was really good. Okay, next day. So on and so forth, until you can reflect and say, I continuously find myself doing this thing that I need to change. I'm going to implement that into my trading plan, execute. It's very simple, but it is not easy. And a lot of this gets kind of washed away in our routine of, sitting down and grabbing a cup of coffee after you roll out of bed, sitting in front of the trader, or sitting in front of your broker and TradingView, and opening up Discord and just following. And a lot of the really foundational stuff that we should be doing gets washed away in that routine. And so this lesson that I presented today was to try to refocus your perspective on what you should be doing, this foundational stuff, your preparation, the work that you put in before you even sit down at the computer or before you get ready to execute is really what matters here. And then reflecting on that stuff. The execution part should be very straightforward. And if, emotions get involved, physiological sigh, maybe walk away, look outside, whatever it is for you, practice some emotional regulation techniques. So my last little thing for you guys is, or let me ask you guys, Tony Robbins, why is that so familiar? Let me look it up real quick, Hunter. Tony Robbins, I don't know if I am, but it sounds familiar. Oh yes, yeah, I am. Um, I'm not very familiar with his work, but I've definitely heard him speak, and I've watched a couple of his speeches. He's got a free event today. Oh, nice. Online, I'm assuming, like a free masterclass. Yeah, send me the link. I'll check it out. Yeah, so before I leave you, or I'll give you the closing statement for those of you who want to run out of here. So I leave you guys with this. A bulletproof trading plan removes guesswork and emotional decision making from trading. For those in the back, I'm going to repeat that one more time. A bulletproof trading plan removes guesswork and emotional decision making from trading. By developing a structured risk management strategy, utilizing a checklist, and prioritizing pre-trade planning, you can truly build long-term consistency, discipline, and success. And I truly mean that, and I truly believe it to the bottom of my heart. But you have to put in the work, and you have to treat this as what it is. It's not some easy side hustle that you're going to get into and make a bunch of money. I'm sure for 0.1% of us, that is how it works. And congratulations if that is how it works for you. But for the majority of us, we know that that is not the case. And we have to put in work, and we have to do the prep. We have to do all of the things that are necessary for us to progress. And if we don't, we'll find ourselves in bouts of success and bouts of failure and inconsistency and emotional stress, and it soon turns into chronic stress. And then all of a sudden it's weighing on your relationship with your spouse, your kids, becomes more of a financial burden than another revenue of income. So this, or a stream of revenue or income. This stuff is necessary, and I hope you guys take it as what it is. And that's what I got for you today. So if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, let me know. If you guys just want to chat, let me know. Do you guys, or let me just ask you this. What do you think about today? Good, yes, maybe a thumbs up, thumbs down, let me know. Hunter, I appreciate you shooting that stuff out. Some of the Rise 3-day event. Yeah, he's good. I've seen a couple of his clips, but I'm not super familiar with it. Honest Money, you are always so kind. Thank you. I appreciate you a lot. So yeah, I mean, that's what I got for you guys today. And again, the community that we're building here, and we have built, the foundation is on a true community, a partnership between individuals who want to see each other succeed. And some of you guys may have, some of you guys have lives that are nearly unrecognizable from the different ways you were raised and where you were raised from the other side of the planet. But we're here with a commonality, a common pursuit to become financially successful in trading, but also to help each other regardless of what it is you're struggling with or want to improve. So, Braden, Jojo, and I, the mods, a lot of the community members here, we're here to help you guys. And it's a good community, and I hope you guys utilize it and engage and talk to us. And, my whole point to saying all this is, if you are struggling with something or have an issue or just want to talk, reach out to us via DM, in public, wherever it is. We're here to help you guys, and we appreciate you a ton. Samaya, really amazing, helpful. Thank you, John. Also appreciate your honesty about your trading. Of course, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, for a lot of you guys know, I came from Traders Evolve, and that's where I started my career. And I was with Danny before it was even called Traders Evolve, when he was just trading on his own. And I was there for a long time and learned a lot about community and communication and transparency, and just who being true to myself and how to do that in a public setting. And realizing that this trading stuff is really stressful on me to do publicly, and I had to step away from that. But how do I still truly help the community and do what I'm passionate about? And that's how I found myself here with Jojo and Braden, giving me the opportunity to teach you guys and to help you guys, and share my journey and research all this stuff and find some some true scientific and backed data to help you guys, and just I love it, and I love my position here, and I thank you guys a ton. So, thank you so much for your valuable time. I know it may not be your favorite thing to do, but to sit down here and listen to me talk, but it is very much appreciated, and I really, really do appreciate all you guys, and I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Hope you guys continue to strive to improve yourself, regardless of how you're feeling. Again, you can treat life just like trading. Of course, sometimes we need breaks, but if you continue to show up every single day and do the things that you know you need to be doing, you're creating habits and discipline that will benefit you in the future so much further than just leaning into being lazy or however you feel today. So go do something hard, go work out today, go to the gym, do whatever it is that is hard for you, and make the right decisions and tell your loved ones that you love them. So appreciate you guys a ton, and I will catch you tomorrow for our prop firm giveaway. And yeah, all right, folks, I'll catch you later. Peace.